Hello, my name is Roshan Narayan, and thank you for joining us on In20. If you're watching us on YouTube, do
that back foot and protect and pass the ball very, very simple. He is brilliant. If you put leg.
If you're watching us on the Rakia post via Facebook, thank you very much. And if you're watching us on YouTube, do hit the subscribe button. We are trying to pass that magical number of 5 subscribers. That's a bad joke, but yeah, we're trying to increase those numbers. Danny, why aren't you pumping in numbers from Leeds? I believe you are the Lord and Mayor of Leeds, but that's lie. But
I don't know, Roshan. I've put in 4 out of the 5. You know what I mean? Come on, what more can I do? That's like, 80%? I'm doing my bit.
That's very true. And you were the man who kept the armband away from David Beckham. Watch the highlights on our either Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook page, and you know what I'm talking about. But let's talk about Liverpool. Okay, fine. They're 6 points behind Manchester United. That's not bad. United are yet to play, but it's gone bad. I think that's an understatement, but it's really, really gone bad in the Premier League for them.
Really bad. Really bad.
Can you explain it? It's like you can't script this. They're the champion.
Really. I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because we knew about the Van Dijk injury, and then obviously Gomez, and then they sort of Alexander-Arnold had and then Robertson, and they had loads of players out, and they were still top of the league at that stage, and they were doing okay. They seemed to have coped with that, and then they started to get a few players back, and then it seemed to all just crumble and go completely wrong. Now, I've said many times, it's very, very difficult to keep those incredibly high standards for 3-4 years in a row. It's tough to be able to do that. But the way they have fallen at the moment, I said on here, a couple of months ago or whenever it was, they needed a proper centre half in. I think I came up with a Johnny Evans type player.
Correct. Yep.
And you look at the players that they've brought in, they're just not good enough. New signings that have come in. You take somebody out of the Championship, and that's a gamble. You bring somebody in from abroad, Ozak, and when you look at his record, relegated twice, I think, in the last couple of seasons. Hasn't won many games. He's not used to winning football matches. He's always under pressure, thrown into the team that are struggling, that were the champions under a massive pressure, and doesn't really look comfortable, in that setting. So I think Jurgen Klopp is frustrated, under a little bit of pressure. His top players aren't performing. Another injury to Jordan Henderson.
Yeah.
And again, Arsene Wenger used to get a lot of criticism, back in the day. Why are your players always injured? What's wrong with the training? What's happening? Again, I just think maybe it's, 3 years of pushing yourself to the absolute limit as maybe just starting to take its toll. And that fatigue that sort of just keeps rolling up, you just keep adding to it. Finally, injuries are starting to occur.
Something else that a lot of people have spoken about in the past is the fact that Bobby Firmino doesn't score many goals, but he contributes in different ways. He drops deep, he allows the likes of Sane and Salah and whatnot to bomb forward, and he supplies that through ball. But he's never been scoring goals, and for the longest time, he's gotten away with that fact because he is that instrumental player. But Liverpool need goals. It's not coming from him. It's not coming from anybody else. So this Firmino equation, has it worked out in the long run for you?
Well, yes, because they won the Champions League and they won the league, and they were exceptional. That was when Liverpool everybody was at their best. Maybe suddenly now when they're not at their best, does Firmino do enough to compensate for others? When you look at maybe Heung-min Son, who, when Harry Kane is not in the team, steps up, and is exceptional, and we've seen him do that, and play centre forward. When things aren't going well, you need everybody to be at their very, very best, and sometimes above and beyond that. Now, what is Firmino's best? His best when you win the Champions League and win the Premier League is not scoring many goals. So when suddenly Mane and Salah are not scoring the amount of goals that they have done previously, you've got to have goals from other areas. And when you look at it, the Liverpool midfield don't score too many goals. Henderson doesn't really score that many goals. Thiago doesn't score that many goals. Wijnaldum occasionally, but not a huge amount of goals when you look at sort of what maybe Foden, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, those sort of players, add from the midfield era, Kevin De Bruyne. So I just think, Liverpool, did they fail in their recruitment over the course of the summer?
When Jota is injured, that was working at the start.
Yeah, again, but a player that's, you bring in him, you bring in Thiago, you've still got Henderson, you've still got Wijnaldum, you've still got Fabinho.
Yeah,
you can only play 3 of them, at that stage. You can't play them all, can you? So did they need to strengthen? Centre forward's always been the issue, I think, for Liverpool. Who is the backup if Firmino's not doing it, or what happens next? And maybe when they were in a real strength, a place of strength, maybe they should have strengthened that centre forward area.
Okay, let's talk about what's left right now at Liverpool, the backup. Origi is there. Minamino is in Southampton, and he's loving life over there. So did Klopp make a mistake of letting Minamino go and keeping Origi? And should he have done it the other way around?
No, I don't think, Minamino hadn't played, had he? He hadn't really been involved. And,
but he was playing well, Danny. They weren't playing to his strengths. He was making the runs, which he's famous for.
But then if you're not going to play to his strengths, and that's not the way that you play, then he's not going to be used. You're not going to get the best out of him. So I think, obviously he was maybe frustrated. Liverpool had him there and weren't using him and sent him elsewhere. Even now, would Minamino be ahead of Firmino at this stage? Probably not. They're still going to stick with Firmino. And then, coming off the bench might be Origi. I think, Minamino, he's done great. He's got a new lease of life. He's gone down to Southampton, and he's enjoying that. You don't get every single piece of recruitment spot on. Not every, not every single one is perfect, and maybe he will, come good in the end. But Origi, would you put him in for 10 games in a row and go, what, we're going to be okay? You probably wouldn't, is the answer. That's where Tottenham have suffered in the past. Manchester City have managed to deal with it in playing with, a false 9. They do have Jesus, although he was out for a little bit as well, obviously with no Aguero. But this is what football managers have to do. You have to change, you have to adapt, you have to rebuild, and build on what you've got. And maybe that hasn't quite happened for Liverpool this season. So
you'll still stick with Origi ahead of Minamino?
I think, but as Minamino's not going to play, would he have played, will he, if he was still at Liverpool, would he play in the next game? No, he wouldn't. So Jurgen Klopp was obviously seeing things in training that, weren't for him, weren't. And that's the difficulty sometimes. We only ever see players, especially subs, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 15, whatever it might be. We don't see them all day, every day in training, throughout the week. And that's really where managers make their decisions.
It really echoes literally what happened to Shinji Kagawa when he went to Manchester United. All this hype surrounding him, came from the Bundesliga, and then all of a sudden, it just didn't work for him.
And that's what happens sometimes. Players don't quite fit a system, and you have to adapt. When Thiago plays at Liverpool, it changes the way that they play slightly. So players come in and Timo Werner at Chelsea was magnificent. And suddenly he struggled a little bit. It does happen, You're settled, you're playing well, and for whatever reason you move, it doesn't quite happen for you, and then you start to lose a little bit of confidence. Fernando Torres, when he went to Chelsea, there was no reason for that. He didn't change as a player, but Chelsea start to play a little bit different type of football. Jamie Vardy. It's like if you took Jamie Vardy out and put him in if you put him into Manchester City's team, I'm not sure how effective he would be, because Manchester City don't play those balls over the top for him. They're not looking for those runs in behind. It's more tiki-taka. Sometimes, it's players have to adapt. And this is where, it comes down to recruitment and the manager and the coach. It's all about picking the right players for your team. It's not always just about picking the best players.
So did Mr. Ancelotti pick the right player in James Rodriguez? Has it worked for Everton?
Oh, definitely. I think when you look at the recruitment they brought in, Alan's been out for some time now, which has been a big blow for them. The players that he brought in, you have to say, have been pretty successful. Under Ancelotti, Everton have made mistakes in the past. I don't think anybody can deny that. But James Rodriguez offers that little bit of flair. the touch and the pass in the first 2 or 3 minutes of a game of that magnitude is absolute quality. To bring that ball down, the ball that he rolls in behind the defence for Richarlison is just superb. He puts it on a plate for him. There's not many players that can do that, especially that early in a Merseyside derby, to have that composure. And yes, he's a flair player. He's a true number 10, which means he's going to have spells where he's ineffective because he's not chasing around, he's not putting tackles, and he's not closing down. But that's not why he's in the team. He's in the team for those 3 or 4 moments in a game where he makes a difference.
So for a player of his stature, yes, he's gone on to Everton and he's made a name for himself so far in England. He's done it before for his country and for Real Madrid, even in Monaco. But he is a player now you would build around rather than compromise his gameplay in terms of be more defense-minded, but still at the same time go up front and do your thing.
Yeah, no, I've never been a fan of building the team around one player. But if he's playing, you have to say to everybody else, look, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to play. This is what's going to happen in this scenario. And therefore, you have to make compensations for that. I played with Mark Viduka, one of the best strikers in the Premier League. On his day was sensational. But Viduka was not going to run the channels. He wasn't going to run back very often. It wasn't his game. That's not. It wasn't. That's not what he did. So you build players. You put players around that. You have Lee Bowyer in midfield that's like full of energy. You have Harry Kewell on the left-hand side that's up and down and same sort of thing. Oh, hello, dog. I think someone wants to go out.
That's my cat on steroids, by the way, at home. I do apologize, but carry on.
EPO, testosterone or whatever you give your cat, that's fine.
Yeah. But carry on.
I've lost my train of thought now.
It was Lee Bowyer and your team of the past.
You don't build around it, but you look at strengths and weaknesses, and you put other players' strengths and weaknesses in around that to get the best out of the team, and that's what Ancelotti's doing at the moment. I feel you have to accept that James Rodriguez is not going to be chasing back, and he's not going to be clearing things off the line and making tackles on the edge of his own box. So you put players in around him that will do that for you.
Okay, so if you bring in Jadon Sancho, once again has been linked to Manchester United from Dortmund, and my dog is going to bark again. But if you bring him to Manchester United right now, is he the player that they really require, or there are other fields whereby they need sorting?
You still go for a centre half, I think, first.
Exactly.
That's the most important thing, and then maybe
you've got Diallo there, right?
Yeah, but you've then got to look at the Cavani situation. And, how long is that going to last? Cavani, I think, is an exceptional player. And I said from day one, I thought he would be a success. But that's a short-term plan, isn't it? He's not going to last forever, being the age that he is. So, you've got other players around. You've got Greenwood, you've got Rashford, you've got Martial that can play out wide. You've got players Bruno Fernandes, Pogba is still there. You've got players that can be creative and can do that job. But if you're going to talk about winning the league, centre half or centre forward is really what Manchester United need.
So you would definitely not go for Jadon Sancho.
I don't.
If you're really United right now,
I'm not really sure where he fits into their team regularly. Are you going to leave? Greenwood's coming through is clearly a magnificent talent. You've got players in those positions that are decent enough. Is Jadon Sancho a huge upgrade on them to warrant paying 110, 120, 130 million pounds when you could spend that on a centre forward at 60 and a centre half at 50 and still have a little bit of cash in the bank? What would be the better option? It comes down to not just a business decision, but it comes down to value for money, I think.
Okay, fair point. So Manchester United are in action against Newcastle later on, and that gap between them and City can be closed for the time being. But this is kind of the game where you would think that Manchester United would fluff their lines, correct?
Possibly. And this is, I think this is where it's been Manchester United's inconsistencies, throughout this season, I would say. That's been one of their biggest problems. If you're going to win the title, you've got to be knocking teams over like Newcastle. That should be a comfortable victory for Manchester United. But you look at it and think, it's not a shoo-in. There's every chance that they could struggle in this. And when you talk about bringing in players, and the Jadon Sancho thing keeps coming up. Let's say Jadon Sancho is going to cost you 120 million pounds. would you not be better off buying Erling Haaland for 200 million? You know, who? Yes, that's an extra 80 million. I get that, but who gives you more value for money?
Haaland, without a shadow of a doubt. Did you watch his goal against Schalke? Ui.
Well,
Dortmund fan.
I watched him in midweek in the Champions League. I did that game as well. You know, you're looking at it. It's an extra 80 million pounds, but he offers an awful lot more, and he's guaranteed to be suited to the Premier League. That is without a shadow of a doubt. He's going to score goals. He's going to hold the ball up, and that's why I said I would buy Haaland over Mbappe, because I think he offers more and in different types. Because he can hold the ball up, he will score headed goals. You know, he will run in behind, and he will knock people off the ball. I just think he's more suited to the Premier League than Mbappe would be right now. Mbappe's a magnificent player, but if you had to choose one or the other, I think Haaland is better in the Premier League. But Manchester, and that's what Manchester United need. Once upon a time, that wouldn't be an issue for Manchester United. They went, right, who's the best striker? We go and get them. Simple as that. Done and dusted. And everybody wanted to join Man United. That's maybe not the case so much anymore.
But that's such a good point, because if you go back in the day, I mean, you look at the two strikers they brought in. I mean, Cavani, fair enough, quality, but older. Igalo was a stopgap measure. I can't remember the last big name they brought him as a striker. Van Persie? Would that be a good shout? I can't remember anybody else.
Probably, yeah. And that was quite short term, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But an exceptional striker.
Frightening, yeah.
But, you know, Manchester United always used to have 3 or 4. You know, Cole, York, Sheringham, you know, then Van Nistelrooy, Solskjaer, whoever it was. You know, there was just an abundance of strikers, you know, that they always had. And now you look at it and just think, they're a little bit light in that area. Cavani, you know, if Cavani doesn't play, who's next in line to wear that number 9 shirt? I think it's difficult. And I would have to say that, you know, they seem to struggle.
Fair enough. So if Manchester United do have the money somehow or the other and decide to change things and go ahead and buy Haaland, I think the only other team that could even come close to them financially is Man City, and they are away against Arsenal. An easy win, or Arsenal will pop out of nowhere.
I mean, if Chelsea could buy Haaland, Manchester City could.
I forgot Chelsea. Yeah, right.
You know, there's potential in there as well. Tuchel didn't work with him at Dortmund, did he? I think he'd left by that stage. But yeah, you know, Haaland's going to be the big signing in the summer, isn't he? You know, I guess it's where does he go? You know, especially if Dortmund don't make the Champions League again, which at the moment is quite possible. So, you know, he could be on the move. But again, you look at Arsenal versus Manchester City. Expecting Manchester City to win this quite comfortably. You know, even if Arsenal play very, very well. City without Aguero. Aguero's played 2 games in the Premier League. No, 5 games in the Premier League, 2 starts.
He's barely been there.
Yeah. You know, and City are still on this unbelievable run. You know, they are still playing magnificent football. They've adjusted. They've adapted. Pep has found a way, whereas Liverpool haven't. And I think that's been the biggest difference this season.
Just another name or 2 names I'll throw into that Haaland conversation. PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, 3. I can't count.
Quite well. Barcelona haven't got the money, so but they haven't. Have they? You know, it's unless Messi. You know, if the Messi situation. And also it's a bit of a rebuilding job at the moment. Haaland's going to want to go somewhere where he guaranteed sort of a great chance of winning things. You know, and with the teams that are being built. You have to, Chelsea would be there because they'll spend again. You know, Manchester City will be there or thereabouts. You know, PSG probably a bit easy for him, if we're honest. You know, he could score a lot of goals, but you know, it would be a frightening front 3. You know, that is for sure. But you know, and that's the thing. Mbappe is an unbelievable talent, an exceptional player. But is he most suited to the Premier League? Or would that be Haaland? I just think Haaland's got a bit more of an all-round game, especially when you look at the physicality and the robustness that you need for the Premier League.
All right, Danny, it's been an absolute pleasure. I do apologize for my cat on steroids barking out of nowhere. I working from home. That isn't my dog. That's another dog over there.
It's allowed. We're allowed to work from home. You know, it's what we have to do, isn't it? Kids, dogs, rabbits, cats, whatever it is, goldfish.
It's not allowed. We have to. If not, you'll be in jail. I don't want to be in jail doing the show. Danny, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll see you next week. And don't forget to catch all the highlights, including my dog barking, on our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook page. Till the next time, take care.